Hi, friend. I'm Melissa, and welcome back to Midlife with Melissa. Wherever you're listening today, I am so glad you're here. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's spend a little time together. Last week, we talked about the invisible weight of midlife, the responsibilities, changing relationships, grief, expectations, and all the things women quietly carry while still trying to appear as though everything is fine. Today, I want to talk about what can happen when that weight becomes too heavy, or when our bodies and lives begin changing in ways that we do not yet understand. Our emotions can begin to feel unfamiliar. Maybe you cry more easily than you used to. Maybe irritation rises before you know where it came from. Maybe someone's tone stays with you all day. Maybe a small disappointment feels much bigger than it normally would. Or maybe you react to something and immediately think, why did I do that? Why am I so emotional? Why is this happening to me? What is happening to me? Friend, I have asked myself those same questions. There were moments when emotions felt so much louder than they once had. I was not only worried, I felt fear throughout my entire body. Sometimes I reacted first and understood what I was feeling later. That was one of the most frightening parts for me. When your reactions no longer feel familiar, you can begin wondering whether you are still yourself. Today, I want to talk honestly about those moments, not so we can blame every feeling on hormones, and not so we can dismiss what our emotions may be telling us, but so we can begin replacing shame with curiosity. Strong emotions do not automatically mean you are weak, dramatic, difficult, or broken. Sometimes they are a sign that something inside you needs attention, understanding, rest, or support. Perhaps the question is no longer, what is wrong with me? Maybe the gentler question is, what might my body or my heart be trying to tell me? For me, one of the clearest examples happened at the grocery store. For months, I tried to work up the courage to go inside. I would ride there with Jason, believing that the time was right. I was going to do it. I was finally going to go in. We would pull into the parking lot. I could see the entrance. I knew it was only a grocery store. I had walked through those doors many times before, but something inside of me would suddenly change. Before we could even get out of the truck, I would begin panicking. I would cry and tell him I can't go in. I would try to talk myself through it. Just open the door. Just get out of the truck. Just walk toward the entrance. But the fear felt stronger than anything I could tell myself. Sometimes I stayed in the truck while Jason went inside. Other times I wanted us to leave and go home. From the outside, it may have looked as though I was simply changing my mind or refusing to cooperate. Honestly, there were probably moments when I looked like a child throwing a tantrum in a grocery store parking lot. But inside, that is not what was happening at all. The frightened feeling did not care who was watching or what anyone thought. It had one purpose. It was going to make sure I stayed inside that truck. The fear came out of nowhere. It came on strong. There was no obvious danger. Nothing had happened in that parking lot. No one was threatening me. But my body seemed to be sounding an alarm anyway. I felt as though I was living in a constant state of fight or flight. Even when everything around me was calm, I did not feel calm inside. I also became extremely sensitive to people's tones. A short answer could sound like anger. Frustration could sound like rejection. A normal disagreement could feel like a threat. I often felt as though I needed to defend myself, even when the other person may not have been trying to fight with me at all. Afterward, I would question myself, why did I react that way? Why did that tone hurt me so deeply? Why can't I calm down? I was not choosing to be anxious. I was not trying to make ordinary situations difficult. I was experiencing emotions and physical reactions that I did not yet understand. And because I did not understand them, I judged myself for them. That fear caused a tremendous amount of frustration between Jason and me. He could see what I was doing, but he could not feel what was happening inside me. And I did not have the words to help him understand. Sometimes, instead of trying to explain it again, I stopped speaking. There were times I would barely talk for days. It was not because I did not love him or wanted to punish him. I had reached a point where I did not know what else to say. How do you explain something to another person when you do not understand it yourself? It took several painful breakdowns and a lot of honesty before Jason began to realize that I truly did not know what was happening to me. I was not trying to be difficult. I was not choosing to withdraw from life. I was frightened, confused, and trying to survive feelings I could not control or even name. The first thing that began to loosen fear's grip on me was educating myself. I researched for months. I read about anxiety, hormonal changes, perimenopause, and the experiences other women were describing. Every time I recognized a piece of myself in someone else's story, I gained another word for what I had been feeling. Education did not instantly take the anxiety away, but it gave me language. Once I had language, I could begin trying to explain my experience to Jason. It did not happen in one conversation. It took several attempts over a few weeks. Sometimes the words came out very wrong, but I kept trying. And eventually he understood something important. He might never know exactly how it felt inside my body and mind, but he could believe that it was real. And that changed something between us. We stopped fighting only about what I could not do and began talking about what we could do next. Friend, maybe your experience does not look exactly like mine. Maybe your difficult place is not a grocery store parking lot. Maybe you can still go to work, care for your family, answer messages, and do everything people expect from you. But inside you feel as though you are barely holding yourself together. From the outside, people may see only the reaction. They may see you cancel plans, become quiet, cry, become frustrated, or change your mind. But they cannot always feel the alarm going off inside your body. When we cannot explain what we are feeling, other people may create their own explanation. They may think we are being dramatic, difficult, unreasonable, lazy, or distant. After hearing those messages long enough, we may begin believing them ourselves. That is where shame can quietly enter the picture. We stop asking what we need and begin criticizing how we are reacting. But what if, instead of immediately judging the reaction, we became curious about what was happening underneath it? What if the tears are not weakness? What if the irritation is not proof that you have become an angry person? What if the anxiety is not a character flaw? That does not mean every emotion should be blamed on hormones. Our feelings can come from relationships, grief, exhaustion, stress, physical changes, or experiences we have not fully processed. But we deserve the opportunity to understand what is happening before we condemn ourselves for it. Once I stopped believing I was simply difficult or broken, I could begin asking a more hopeful question. What kind of help might I need? Eventually, I decided to reach out to a telehealth provider. My primary care physician had told me near the end of 2024 that I was in perimenopause. Looking back, I had started experiencing noticeable symptoms earlier that year. But at the time, I thought I was much too young. I dismissed every strange feeling, emotional change, and moment when I did not quite feel like myself. I kept pushing it aside until it felt as though everything around me was crashing down. That was when I begged Jason to help me figure out what was happening. By then, I did not feel comfortable going back into a doctor's office and explaining everything all over again to someone new. I have always experienced intense anxiety when going to the doctor. I've been told this very often, that it is called the white coat syndrome, white coat anxiety. At that point, I was already struggling to leave my home, and I just would not do it. The thought of sitting in an unfamiliar office with a doctor I had never met and trying to explain feelings I barely understood felt way too overwhelming. I was also afraid of being dismissed. When you already feel confused and unsure of yourself, the possibility of someone telling you that nothing is wrong can make reaching out so much harder. So I kept researching. Eventually, I found a telehealth provider. For me, that felt like a door I could actually walk through. I could begin the process from home. I did not have to sit in a waiting room while my anxiety built, and I felt more at ease being honest about what I had been experiencing. Because I had already spent so much time researching hormone replacement therapy, I did not feel especially nervous discussing it as an option. I knew it was not a one-size-fits-all answer. Every woman's health history, risks, symptoms, and treatment decisions are different. But after speaking with my provider, I decided it was something I wanted to try. At the time I am recording this, I have been taking hormone replacement therapy for about 3 weeks. I feel very fortunate to say that for me, I began noticing encouraging changes within the first week. It felt as though I had finally started moving in a different direction. Not because every difficult feeling disappeared, but because something was beginning to release its grip on me. That change was huge, but something else changed too. Once Jason and I understood that I was truly going through something neither of us had experienced before, we stopped standing on opposite sides of it. He may never fully understand what those feelings were like inside my body, and I would never expect him to. But he understood that they were real. It felt so good to know he was beside me instead of standing across from me. Sometimes the people who love us do not need to fully understand every feeling. They just need enough understanding to stop fighting against us and to start helping us fight for ourselves. That is one of the reasons I believe we need to talk about this transition more openly. Women need to understand what may be happening within their own bodies, but the people closest to us may need that understanding too. Changes in our emotions, energy, sleep, anxiety, patience, or ability to manage everyday life do not always affect only us. Sometimes they ripple through the entire household. The woman experiencing it may be wondering, why is this happening to me? What is happening to me? While the person who loves her may be wondering, what happened between us? Simply being around someone every day does not mean they automatically know what is happening inside you. People cannot always see anxiety, exhaustion, confusion, fear, or emotional pressure building beneath the surface. There is not a large sign across our face explaining what is happening, even though it can feel as though everyone must be able to see it. That is why communication matters. Not because we will always have the perfect words, and not because one conversation will make another person understand exactly how it feels, but because silence leaves everyone guessing. I wish these conversations were more normal. I wish women were prepared for this season before they found themselves in the middle of it. I wish partners, children, and other loved ones understood that this transition can sometimes affect far more than a menstrual cycle. It can affect how a woman feels in her own body, how she sleeps, how she thinks, how she responds to stress, and how she relates to the people she loves. Of course, every woman's experience will be different. I can share only what this has looked and felt like for me. But through opening up to Jason, I learned that people who love us may need help understanding too. We may need to say, this is what I have been noticing. This is what feels different. I am still trying to understand it, and this is how you can support me while I do. We do not have to make our loved ones experts. We do not need them to have every answer. But giving them some understanding may help them to respond with compassion instead of confusion. For Jason and me, education helped us recognize that the real problem was not him, it was not me. The problem was that something significant was happening, and neither of us understood it yet. Once we understood that, we could begin facing it together. I wished I could tell you that I sat down with Jason one day calmly, explained everything, and he immediately understood. But that is not what happened. Some conversations started only after I had completely broke down. Sometimes the words did not come out the way I intended. Sometimes both of us became very frustrated. And there were times when I stopped talking because I felt ashamed that I could not explain what was happening inside me. Eventually, I realized that waiting until I had the perfect explanation was keeping both of us trapped. I did not need medical language. I did not need every symptom organized neatly. I did not need to know the solution. I needed only enough honesty to say, I do not completely understand what is happening to me yet, but I need you to believe that it feels real. Sometimes the first conversation is not about explaining everything. Sometimes it is simply asking the person you love to believe you while you are still trying to understand it yourself. I told Jason that I did not expect him to fix me. What I needed most was for him to understand that I was not choosing fear, anxiety, isolation, or the distance that had grown between us. Once he understood that, our conversations changed. Instead of asking only, why can't you do this? We could begin asking, what would help you feel safe enough to try? Friend, your conversation may be with your spouse, partner, mother, sister, closest friend, or one of your adult children. You may still be learning what is happening, and you may be afraid you will not explain it correctly. But you do not have to deliver a perfect speech. You can begin with something simple. I have noticed changes in myself that I do not fully understand. I am struggling more than you may be able to see. I do not need you to fix everything. I need you to listen and believe me. Or perhaps the most honest sentence of all. I may not have all the right words today, but I do not want to keep going through this alone. The person listening may not understand immediately, and they may need time. They may also be carrying hurt or confusion from the changes they have seen. That does not mean the conversation has failed. Sometimes understanding is built slowly, one honest sentence at a time, one difficult conversation, and one moment of listening at a time. Because the goal is not to make another person feel exactly what you feel. The goal is to stop carrying it entirely by yourself. Sometimes the conversation that changes everything begins with only a few honest words. I am still trying to understand this, but I need you beside me while I do. Friend, if your emotions have started feeling unfamiliar, you do not have to be ashamed of that. You are not weak because you cry more easily. You are not difficult because you feel overwhelmed. You are not dramatic because something that once seemed simple now feels much harder. And you are not failing because you need more support than you used to. For a long time, I judged myself for every reaction. But shame never helped me understand myself. It only made me hide more and talk less. What began helping was learning to become curious instead of immediately critical. Instead of asking, why am I acting like this? I began asking, what is happening inside me right now? Am I exhausted? Am I carrying stress I have not acknowledged? Do I feel afraid, even if I cannot explain why? Is there something I need to discuss with a healthcare provider? And perhaps most importantly, what kind of support do I need in this moment? Sometimes I needed space. Sometimes I needed reassurance. Sometimes I needed Jason simply to sit beside me without trying to solve everything. And sometimes I needed professional guidance because what I was experiencing had become bigger than something I could work through alone. Listening to our emotions does not mean every feeling is always an accurate picture of what is happening around us. When I was in that constant fight or flight state, a change in someone's tone could feel like a threat even when that person may have simply been tired or distracted. The feeling was real, but the meaning I gave it was not always accurate. I had to learn that I could honor what I was feeling without immediately believing every fearful thought that came with it. Becoming compassionate with ourselves also does not mean our words and reactions no longer matter. If we hurt someone, we may still need to apologize. If we speak harshly, we may still need to take responsibility. The feelings of the people around us matter too. But responsibility and shame are not the same thing. Responsibility says, I did not handle that moment the way I wanted to, and I want to understand why. Shame says, I am a terrible person, and there is something wrong with me. One gives us a path forward. The other keeps us trapped. I could say, I know my silence hurt you, and also say, I was so overwhelmed that I did not know how to speak. I could say, I understand why the grocery store situations frustrated you. And also say, I need you to understand that the fear felt completely real to me. Both things could be true. You do not have to diagnose yourself. You do not have to have every answer. But you do deserve to pay attention, to be taken seriously, and to seek help when emotions or anxiety begin interfering with your ability to function, to leave your home, to maintain relationships, or to feel safe inside your own mind. For me, seeking help did not mean I had failed. It meant I had finally stopped expecting myself to survive something I did not yet understand without support. Your emotions are not proof that you are broken. They are information. They may not tell you the whole story, but they may be telling you that something deserves your attention. So before you criticize yourself for feeling too much, pause for a moment. Take a breath and ask, what might my body or my heart be trying to tell me? Then listen with compassion. Not fear, not shame, compassion. Sometimes the first step toward feeling like ourselves again is learning to listen to ourselves without shame. Friend, if your emotions no longer feel like your own, I want you to hear this clearly. You have not disappeared. You are still there. You may be exhausted, frightened, or confused by reactions you do not recognize. You may still be searching for the right words. But none of that means you are broken. For a long time, I thought I needed the perfect explanation and a clear plan before I could begin getting better. But hope did not begin when I had every answer. Hope began when I admitted that I needed help finding them. It began when I stopped dismissing what I was feeling. It began when I educated myself. It began when I kept trying to talk to Jason, even when the conversations were difficult. It continued when we stopped standing on opposite sides of the problem and decided to look for the next step together. My path will not be every woman's path. Hormone replacement therapy is not the right choice for everyone. And no treatment is one size fits all. I am still early in my own experience. I am still learning and paying attention to my body and emotions. But I can honestly say that something has shifted. The fear that once seemed to control every decision no longer has the same grip on me. I am beginning to recognize myself again, and today I can see hope in places where I could not see it before. Hope does not always arrive as one enormous moment. Sometimes hope is doing the research. Sometimes it is making the appointment. Sometimes it is telling someone, I am not okay and I need you beside me. Sometimes it is trying to walk through the door again after fear stopped you last time. And sometimes hope is simply believing that the way you feel today is not necessarily the way you will feel forever. So if you are quietly wondering whether you will ever feel like yourself again, please do not give up on finding the support that is right for you. Keep asking questions. Keep learning. Keep speaking honestly. Talk with someone you trust, and speak with a qualified healthcare professional about what you are experiencing. You do not need to present your feelings perfectly, and you do not have to wait until your life or relationships are falling apart before deciding that you deserve support. I am not standing on the other side of this with every answer. I am here, still learning and still finding my way, but I am moving forward. And that is enough for me to know that forward is possible. So take one honest step. Say one honest sentence. Let one person in. And remember that hope may begin long before you can fully feel it. Before we go, I want to remind you that everything I have shared today comes from my own personal experience. I am not a doctor, therapist, or counselor, and this episode should not be considered medical advice or used to replace professional care. Every woman is different. If you are experiencing significant emotional changes, anxiety, panic, or symptoms that are interfering with your daily life, please speak with a qualified healthcare or mental health professional about what is right for you. And if today's conversation resonated with you, I would truly love to hear from you. You can connect with me through the Midlife with Melissa Facebook page, Instagram, or YouTube. While I cannot provide medical treatment, therapy, or crisis support, I can offer honesty, encouragement, and a community built around the belief that no woman should have to walk through midlife alone. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. Listen to what your body and heart may be trying to tell you. Keep choosing hope, and remember, I've been saving you a seat.